Trap game has been a label applied for Boston College and Stanford, but I'm going to tell you, the Cardinal is not going to be much of a problem at all for the Eagles.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black. I'm the editor of Eagle Insider, part of the 247 Network. I've been covering Boston College for over a decade. If you want the news, analysis, and details on your Eagles, you are in the right place. We are a free daily Boston College podcast available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. On today's show, the basketball schedule is out. I'm going to give you my thoughts on that and some recruiting news, both good and bad. We're going to talk about resetting expectations for BC after 2 games. Where should the Eagles be? I'll explain. And we're going to kick it off by talking about Stanford, why I don't think they're going to be all that great. We'll get into all that in just a moment. But today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. All right, Stanford. They have this historical, they give you the impression that they're a hard-nosed, hard-out team that's difficult to play. In addition, you're playing them at 10:30 at night. Pray for AJ. Over in Palo Alto, California, across the country. So I've seen the word trap game thrown a lot for this matchup between BC and Stanford. And if all that is what you believe, then I understand where you're coming from. The only issue here is that mentality isn't living in the present, because that thought of Stanford as this hard-nosed, tough-out team is not a realistic depiction of what you're going to see on Saturday. Stanford is terrible. And I'm not saying that as a BC person trying to put down an opponent. I've been giving Michigan State their flowers for the last week and a half. Stanford is objectively bad. They have, statistically, the worst quarterback in Power 4 football by a wide margin. They have lost almost all of their talent that they had last year, including David Bailey, not the same David Bailey that was our running back, but a very talented linebacker that's now at Texas Tech. They lost Eric Alamayor, their wide receiver. They lost their quarterback. They lost a ton of talent, and they have a new coach, Frank Reich. So this point I'm trying to make here is not to rip on Stanford, to make them, to downplay who you're playing. I'm just telling you the realistic aspect of what's going to happen on Saturday. BC is heading across the country to the opposite end of the United States, and they are basically a 10 to 11 point favorite. I don't think I've seen that ever, and I don't think I will ever see that. How often has BC been a favorite against a non-G5 or FCS school like that, and by more than one touchdown? That tells you what Vegas thinks. So I look at this matchup, and we'll have, I'm still trying to get a Stanford person on, but Stanford is in a much tougher situation than they were 5 years ago. They don't have a coach. They have Andrew Luck, who's doing his best to try to resurrect this program, and will Frank Reich be here after this year? We don't know. He's an interim head coach. But you look at the talent that they have, and you can see where their concerns come from. They've lost both of their first 2 games. They lost to Hawaii and they lost to BYU. And they were in the game against Hawaii a little bit, but against BYU they got smoked. So there's not much meat on the bones here. So yes, there's always a potential that BC looks past them and gets caught. That could happen. But that goes back to Bill O'Brien. Bill O'Brien, to me, seems like a coach that's not going to let them look past a Stanford. That's not going to let his BC team take this as a off week. Because if you do that, no matter who you're playing against, you could lose. You have to take every game seriously. So as a outside person watching this, I don't think Stanford has much of a chance. But as if you're in that huddle, they're going to treat it like that you're playing Clemson, that you're playing Notre Dame. So I think this is going to be a lot easier than some folks are thinking. And yes, I've watched BC long enough. You guys don't need to talk down to me about this. I've watched enough football to watch them struggle against teams like Colorado State in 2014 or Kansas or you pick the team, UConn a couple years ago where they were favorites and they lost. I just think there's two big factors here that should prevent those from happening. You have a quarterback that is showing right now that he could be legendary at Boston College, and you have a head coach that is better than anything you've had in the last 20 years. That should prevent any sort of letdown. So if they were to lose this game, man, this is the type of loss that would be brutal for the future of Bill O'Brien. But I don't think that's going to happen. And already we heard it on Tuesday. O'Brien is talking about fixing things that happen. They're doing extra drills on tackling for the defensive line and linebackers. They're working on kick returns and kick blocking and all that stuff. They're working it through, the issues that plagued them against Michigan State and to some extent to Fordham too. So, you always want to respect your opponent, but I don't play the football game. I'm just an announcer who has a big mouth. I say, watching this, I think BC should easily win this game. I think this is the perfect kind of game. A, Dylan Lonergan should be able to put up some good numbers. And B, this is the perfect get-back game for that defense. When you have a quarterback, and it was, I think, college football numbers, they have a graph, and it shows, basically the effectiveness of a quarterback. And you see all the good quarterbacks, they're up in this quadrant up here. And, quarterbacks that have some issues but are still pretty good on this quadrant. And then they get the bottom quadrant. The one way over in like his own world is Stanford's quarterback. BC should win this easily. And if BC can't get too aggressive, that's the thing. Like if these safeties go out there and play like their hair's on fire and are reckless, any team can make you pay for that. But if they go out there and play smart, we're talking they should get multiple turnovers, multiple sacks. This is a perfect get-back game for BC. And if they win this, it's the perfect way to go into a bye week. You get that win, you get that rush for 2 weeks, and then you're back home again against Cal. And so I want you to get a realistic expectation of what Stanford is. They are the worst team in Power 4. There's a good chance that Stanford, believe they play one FCS team, but other than that, they're going to lose. There's a good chance they could lose out. That's how bad they are. So BC just needs to take care of their business. They got to go out there, execute their game plan, play good football, and they should win. That's the way it should go. There should not be a lot of anxiety and worries about this game if BC does what they need to do. So that's what we're going to be watching for. Now, in a moment, speaking of this, after what Dylan Lonergan showed, how are we resetting our expectations for BC football after 2 games? I'll explain what I mean by that in just a moment. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS top safety pick awards than anyone else as of August 2025. These are excellent cars. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. You can make every drive feel like anything but, with smooth handling to intuitive controls. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant with Mazda. Move and be moved. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday, with DoorDash streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For Boston College, Dylan Lonergan delivered in a big way. He threw 4 touchdown passes and put himself in position to be one of the best quarterbacks in the ACC. When the pressure was on, Lonergan came through. No hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching week after week, this performance wasn't a fluke. Lonergan is on a streak. And just like Dylan Lonergan delivered for the Eagles, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash streaks. You save every Saturday on your order. Stack it up all season, and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through 11/18. Locked on Boston College, AJ Black here, and I want to tell you about Eagles Nest. The Eagles Nest is a subtext program. It's a text-based program that I do videos and I do text messages with my subscribers where you get BC information during the game. I'm sending you stuff during the week. I think it's like $5 just to join, but you get 3 free months. So check it out. Try it out. The promo code is in the show notes. I hope you check that and take advantage of that. Now, BC ends their first 2 games 1-1. And I said before, it would have been great to end the month of September 4-0. That wasn't in the cards. So you got to reset your expectations. How are things going? So at the beginning of the year, I was hoping for 4-0. But I also was hoping that Dylan Lonergan was just a game managing quarterback. And fortunately, both of those are not true. BC is now 1-1. But Dylan Lonergan has shown that we could have BC looking at games that maybe we weren't looking at the beginning of the season. And that's what I love about college football is, yes, there's games where you at the beginning of the season, you're going, oh, Clemson, they have no chance. Louisville, they have no chance. Now a month in, you're going, if Lonergan has a big game, could they win this one? And I think to myself, he's put BC in a position where I think the term upset comes up more and more and more. If BC can really figure out what went wrong on that Michigan State game, especially on the defensive side of the ball, the offense will take care of itself. The offense is going to be fine. It's the defense. You can't like when you play against Clemson, you need to trust that your cornerbacks are going to put up a fight against Williams and Bryant Wesco. If they're struggling, you're going to get blown out. So, I think that the way that Dylan Lonergan has played should set BC up to, again, maybe not win every game, but be in every game. And that's where the fun starts. He's good enough to hold court with Notre Dame. He's good enough to hold court with SMU and Louisville and Georgia Tech. That's more than you could have said at the beginning of this year. His talent and his ability to make this offense click shows that if the team develops, if they continue to get better, especially that month of November, BC could do some special things. They could win some games. An upset against SMU on Red Bandana game. Beating, Georgia Tech at home. These are all things now that a month ago you may not have thought was possible, but the way Lonergan's throwing the ball, if he's throwing 3 or 4 touchdowns, there's not going to be a lot of teams that BC will not be in a game against. So I think I'm still sticking with 7-5 because I worry that there's some things that may, like the defense may cost them or there's a special teams blunder. But I would not, I think the odds of going to 8-4 and above are potentially higher now than they were a month ago. All you need is a quarterback in this league. And as long as the other positional players are playing at average or above, you're going to be fine. There's certain positions they are not average at right now. Some of the special teams kicking specifically has not been average. But if they can tweak it just a little bit and show that development and do the things that Bill O'Brien says they're working on and they're going towards, I think this team could win. I like the odds that they could win more than 7 games, but they're going to have to show it. Beating Stanford would be a nice way to start. And, you've watched, just from BC's perspective, there's that. But you watch what the other teams are doing, and you start to feel, okay, they have a better chance than we think. SMU, they just lost to Baylor. You have Syracuse, who barely beat UConn in overtime. You had Clemson, who was holding for dear life against Troy. You got those three games. Louisville at times has not looked all that great. You see where I'm going with this? So, the high to the everyone regressing to the mean means the games are going to be a little bit more interesting. So I think that there's a chance that this gets better. That maybe that they get to that point. There's also the chance that it's only game number 2 and that Lonergan, people start to figure him out. It makes things harder. That could happen as well. Now, in our final segment, I want to get to basketball. We haven't talked about basketball in a while. And there's 2 big news items that come up. One with recruiting and one with a potential 4-star recruit. We need to get into all of that. So we'll get into all of that in just a moment. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however I like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in the live action. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. I love the ability to make multiple layer parlays. They're so easy to use. So you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Most people can't name all of their financial accounts or whatever or what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface, all on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for the people with busy lives. If you're putting off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart characterizations of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I use it to track how much money I spend going out to eat with my family. It's helped me being able to save a little bit and putting into my kids' college funds, which makes me feel better. So I love using Monarch to hit those goals, and my wife loves it too. So don't let the financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use Locked On College at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege. Locked On Boston College, AJ Black here of Eagle Insider, and I want to shout out all my everydayers. All of you who have made Locked On College either your first listen every day or you have just been listening every single day. The response to our podcast has been overwhelming. You guys have made our show grow and grow and grow. The year over year has been tremendous, and I want to thank each and every one of you. And if you're looking for a second listen, check out Locked On Celtics with John Corrales. If you're into the Celtics in this upcoming weird season, he's got some great insight. Check that out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, on Tuesday, the new ACC schedule came out for all the schools. Now, before this, we knew what their out-of-conference schedule looked like, but we know now what the schedule looks like for BC. And I have to say, my initial gut reaction to this schedule is one of worry, because the first 5 or 6 ACC games really is kind of a murderer's row of just teams, and not like they're the best teams, but they're teams that have always given BC fits. And here's who they play. To start it off, Saturday, January 3rd at Georgia Tech. Probably the easiest one out of this group. They've beaten them before. But then Tuesday or Wednesday on January 6th or 7th, they play NC State. They've had troubles, and NC State just got Will Wade. They're going to be a lot better this year. They're going to be good. Then you go to at Louisville, who could potentially win the ACC. You go on the road to Clemson, who has also been very good. Syracuse, who has been improved. They got Carmelo Anthony Jr. You go back to you host them. You host Pitt, and then you go on the road to Notre Dame, and then it's Virginia and Duke. That grouping right there, if BC's not playing well, is where things could go off the rails, in my opinion. there's teams that BC plays in conference. Notre Dame's on there, so I got to say that could be a chance to pull off a win. And Syracuse may not be the best, and Georgia Tech. Those are some teams that you could play well against. Louisville, the new Louisville, and the new NC State, good luck. They're stacked. Both of them stacked up in the transfer portal. I think Louisville should be on track to have the best front court in the country. Tough. It's tough. It's a tough draw. But if they can survive that, if BC can get past that with a couple of wins, the second half is much more manageable. Now, remember, BC does not play UNC this year. So that is a positive for the Eagles right there. But then they play Miami, who they've had a lot of success with. Stanford, who is not that great, and it's at home. Cal, same thing, at home. At Florida State has a new head coach. They're still a year away. SMU you could beat. Wake Forest you've beaten before. And then at Virginia Tech and at Notre Dame. So that second half, if you can survive that first half and grab some wins, that second half could be manageable. So if your team is playing well, maybe you can make some noise and get that momentum going into the ACC tournament. Now, this is a lot of optimistic thinking here, but I'm trying to think of how this season could go from a positive perspective, because it's easy to say, yeah, BC's going to go 0-18 in the conference. They're not going to. There's enough talent that BC's not going to get shut out. But it could either go that they find some success, or it could just go miserably, and we'll be talking about a new head coach next April. So that's how the new schedule looks out. We've talked about the out-of-conference schedule. They're playing in that tournament. They play UMass. They play FAU. They've got some funky games in there as well. Then you look at who the recruiting is, what's going on with recruiting. Now, I have to say, BC had an official visit last year from Tony Bryant, who was a top 10 recruit at the time. I said all along, after he blew up and became a 5-star blue chipper, that there was no way he was coming here. He visited Kansas, he visited UNC, and you know what? He ended up at Missouri with Dennis Gates, who a lot of folks wanted to coach at BC. He's gone, and now I just never thought that was going to happen. I feel like once he had an official visit list of like all the blue bloods, I was surprised more that it was Missouri, but Missouri's got a big coffer right now and they're paying for more with their recruits. So that was one. Now the other one that's ready to break your heart is Alex Aguanu. He is from Massachusetts at Lawrence Academy. Obviously for football, there's been a huge history with Lawrence Academy, but this is a 4-star recruit, number 79 in the country. He is a 6'5" wing. And he has official visits set up to Boston College, Georgetown, Providence, Stanford, Florida State, and Auburn. But the big news on Tuesday was he canceled the official visits to Florida State and Georgetown. Now, I can read the tea leaves here. I'd love to see this would be a huge get for BC, but I'm not going to be all roses and maroon colored glasses and gold shoes right here, because I just don't think this is going to happen. To me, it's an Auburn thing, maybe Providence, but it's BC. He's not going to end up at BC. We go back to what we've seen with BC and local recruits. Unless they're a kid that is like gung-ho with going to BC, and maybe he is, and I don't know where he's at. He says he loves Earl Grant, so good for him. But, you got a school like Auburn, who's been a perennial top 10 team. Why wouldn't he go there? They're going to pay you too. They'll pay you good too, and you get a good coach. So I'm not so confident this is going to happen. Same thing with Trey Beamer, who's another top 100 recruit. He took his official visit 2 weekends ago. He's got a few other visits. I mean, he seems more likely, and it seems like BC would have a better chance of kids that aren't from the Massachusetts area, because I kind of feel like the kids from Massachusetts know, like, hey, it's BC, the school that no one goes to watch. So those are some other names, and hey, they're going for 4 stars. If they can land one of them, that would be pretty nice. But that's the newest in basketball news. We'll be back again tomorrow. I am trying my darndest to get a Stanford person on the show to talk about the Cardinal. I have not had any luck, but I will continue to do it. Here's the thing. I had on Jackson Moore from the summer from 247, but he's now covering Oregon, so I lost him. We'll see if there's other people out there. I'm going to try in the next 24 hours, but we'll have a good show tomorrow. I promise you that. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247, on Facebook, or wherever you get your social media. And thank you all for subscribing to Locked On Boston College on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. And we'll see you all again tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Boston College, your team every day.